when you grow up and you're in this transitional time in your life, and then you feel it throughout the world, and you're looking inward, you're introspecting. There's things that you've given up, there's things that you now know you need to take seriously, right? Maybe you don't rebel the way that you used to, because you realize, like, it really does affect your health and safety if you rebel too much, right? Or it affects your daily ability to function properly. And it's actually cooler to take care of yourself than to rebel. But then sometimes, like, after a long time of being in this space where you've changed and you're unrecognizable, there's some weird build-ups that you go through in your process. We're hitting a place in time where self-help is becoming very repetitive. I don't mean successful people are bad. I don't mean that finding work and having the ability to move on with yourself is bad, or move forward, or learn from other people. I don't think any of that is bad. There are people that started kind of doing businesses and then getting into self-help, but ultimately their foundation is business, which is really, to me, that's a lot more valid than just self-help. And so what is happening is, like, there are certain patterns we've seen in self-help before the internet, and there are certain patterns that we've seen in our rebellions that, let's be honest, even after years of being sober, or just time of being, like, craving freedom, right? Before becoming sober, there was a time where there were things or aspects of yourself that you love that made you rebellious, that made you stand out, that made you kind of like different from everybody else. And one of those things was that I had a good balance of being organized. I could write things down as to not forget if I need, like, details within information. And then I had really good patterns for myself that I would set. Maybe it was things throughout the year I had to do, or things like I could remember priorities throughout the week. But I didn't need to manage time. I never needed, like, routines of sleep, or certain times that I drank coffee, or times that I drank tea that were different times, or times that I went outside, and then other times that I worked, right? My whole goal in life was to always learn how to work for myself on my own terms. I never wanted to work at certain hours. That didn't mean I didn't want to work hard. But this planner thing is coming from a deeper thing, a deeper aspect of life. And this is getting a little longer than I thought, but this planner obsession that I've had, I'm realizing I'm unpacking this, because I don't just want to tell you that we're headed into some new trend that's anti-planner, because I don't actually think that's accurate anymore. I thought that maybe because I wasn't seeing it as much, that might be the case. But really, some of the self-help stuff had been around before the internet, and we don't even know it. Like, some of this self-help that we're seeing, self-help has been a long time coming. Like, self-help was always going to be big. It's been around since before the internet. I've watched, like, kind of hidden parts of my family get into self-help in the 90s and early 2000s in different transitions of their own adult lives as I was a kid, right? And that included the planner, that included alarm clocks, that included cassette tapes with different types of people in that specialized in different types of lives that could be touched, whether that was parenting, relationships, marriage, divorce, any of that, or it had to do with work. It had to do with taking your work home, doing your work. Your work was a big part of your life, and then you had a balance of hobbies and things like that, which nowadays I think your work is kind of becoming, it has the ability to become your hobbies, but processing the way that I create, and maybe the way that a lot of us create, I don't think that the daily planner and calendar has to be for everybody. And I'm starting to see why I miss the times of freedom that I allowed myself to have, where I didn't give a fuck about a routine. And the only reason I pressured myself to give a fuck about a routine was because maybe the things that I've lacked, the discipline that I've lacked, the bad habits I picked up on over extreme rebellion, like drinking and things like that, not understanding what I was doing with my energy or my time, feeling so disorganized and chaotic that I just drilled it into my own head that I needed to repeat, go back, track when I would have my time to eat, when I would have my time to cook. It's never how I've started or succeeded at relationships. It's never how I've kept relationships, to be honest with you. The actual way I've kept relationships is by adapting, is by being flexible, is the way I've learned to be actually able to function and able to go off and have a lot of confidence is by actually adapting, having really fucked up routines that I could go manage, being able to jump at emergencies if I've needed to, being able to adjust and enjoy some calm when I've needed it, being able to sleep when I've needed to, and then being able to work, do business when it suited my life, when it was realistic for me to, when I've prioritized sleep and eating on my own kind of terms. And we've kind of told ourselves a story with self-help that if you copy everybody else's success framework, somehow then that's giving you the key to living on your own terms. And that's such bullshit. To learn and get advice and see how people have went through their own adversity is fine. It's a good story. I love some of these people out here that have done business, that are famous for it. I've enjoyed watching them. But now it's everybody, and they have an answer for everything because it's part of their way that they create. It's not bad. It's just a part of the way that they want to interact. And it's the story. It's the story of each person we watch. It's why we're in the audience, because we want to feel like we're looking up to somebody who has the answers for each and every one of our circumstances and each and every one of our lives. And I'm having this major awakening now. It's taken a couple of years. It really has. I've had a major awakening, and it started out with getting away from people who we don't share the same interests, or people who are not intentional and don't have the same intentions that are good. And then getting involved with reality as it is, and then kind of like enjoying the parts of self-help that are positive, right? The parts that are more about like the sort of constructive way of living, the structured, sort of like building a structure or just constructing something versus destroying something. And because of that, what happens is we get involved in the story that if we follow the blueprint and then maybe tweak it to some of our little personality traits or designs in a planner, in a calendar, printing the calendar block and adjusting it to our needs, right? Or like learning how to do finance the way somebody else does finance, or working as hard as somebody else. Having the obligation to want the same amount of money that somebody else wants. Why? What I've started to realize is that this has been coming since before the internet, and it's why we've watched reality shows a lot. And then with the internet, it's become a little more realistic and watching people's story from the bottom up. But like, there are parts of self-help that I'll always be grateful for, because it kind of helped me see the constructive parts of life, where it's like, no, you can enjoy constructing your life. You don't have to have freedom by destroying your life. That's the part of self-help that I actually like. That's the part of self-help that I appreciate. But I guess watching somebody else's story and copying and pasting their blueprint in life, like verbatim, writing reality the way that they would write reality through a planner or a calendar, you know, it's too easy to do that because we were taught how. It's an addiction. It was taught in schools before self-help ever made it like trendy. And I don't see anything wrong with some time management hacks, some work smart kind of life hacking your way into like being organized with your phone or sketching or writing or anything like that. But I think it's time that you create your own story around that. And really, I miss my sort of like space in my mind, because I end up doing it anyway. I end up really going through a sort of a realization every single year that this planner thing is the last thing I ever seen with my eyes physically. It's the last thing that I've ever seen consistently from parents. I grew up with like more than my set of parents. I grew up with lots of adults in my life who all had, you know, everybody had planners and calendars on the wall in the fridge, and planners in the purse and notebooks, and none of this is really that new. It's just that the internet kind of made it, like, it exposed the seriousness of how much people take it. And I would like to go through my planner, prioritize and kind of organize anything that I want to keep to remember in my notes app, and then just kind of like go back to being a little bit more free-spirited, the way that I had been, the way that I started out in adulthood. I miss it. I'm starting to feel that life works better that way. I'm starting to feel I work better on a team, for my team, who works better that way. And the one toxic trait about self-help that I think can get toxic is that you forget, you know, if you want extremely valuable relationships in your life, do they calendar block? Do they work well with a planner? Do they prefer routines? Now, some of this requires that there are consistent patterns, that your team, your family, your friends, if you really value them and love them, they expect you to be present for those patterns, and it's a welcome presence. And if you're not in that pattern with them, it's not that you're bad or punished for it, it's that you're actually missed, and they missed you, and you feel missed, and you feel loved, and you feel wanted, and if you love these people, you are involved in that, and you really want to respect that, you want to honor that. People who have really earned it. Now, I've talked about being in the wrong relationships with wrong people, where you can feel that there's things they might like about you for a little bit, but they have either lost respect for you because you went through a really hard time in life, and they no longer have the respect for you that you thought they did. Maybe they never respected you, or you realize how much you've never actually had respect for them. That's a very fair point that I've learned in myself. There are people in my past that I've realized, it's not really fair that I've misled certain people because I didn't actually respect them. And that's where the relationships, the family, the co-working spaces, the classrooms, the church settings, the friendship groups, any of those things, the households, the relatives, the reunion, any of this stuff, like any gatherings, right? That's where they all would fall apart. That's why I would have so many times where I wouldn't get along with people, or where I would break away for a while and then come back, because I didn't respect their time. I didn't respect them. I just don't have the kind of respect that people deserve in a relationship. Like, I don't have that respect for those people. So I shouldn't be in a friendship or relationship. I shouldn't be trying to rekindle family, or certain family vibes from relatives, or family that it's like, even if you are family, even if we're blood, like, I don't have the respect that it takes to have a proper relationship with you. And that actually doesn't make me like overconfident when I say that. I'm actually not blaming. If you realize that, like, about yourself, right? Like, what is the real thing that has made you impossible to get along with someone? And you could find fault with everything that they have done or have not done, right? You can find so much fault in people, the way that they are. You can find so much fault in the way that they live and in the way that they treat other people. But that is what they've been shown, that is how they've been raised, and that is their problem, really. That's like not your responsibility. That's not your problem. If you know that they treat people like shit, you can't really erase that in relationship. You're gonna understand that if they treat people like shit, instead of accepting and trying to see past, like in relationships or family, you're not going to have the respect for them to do that. You're not going to respect them if you see that they treat people like shit. I've had friends who have completely, and people that were really close in my life, who have completely treated their boyfriends like total shit. And I'm no saint. I'm not perfect. But I realize that naturally I like to respect people's boundaries. Naturally I like to try to understand where somebody's coming from, and I'm not a judgmental person. But then I'm like, wait, I have no respect for this person. What am I talking about? Let's get honest. I shouldn't be misleading them and being fake towards them if I have no respect for them. That's false, and that's my problem. It is not my problem what they do with people or how they treat others. but it is my problem to be around people that I don't respect. So that's kind of the raw honesty. I didn't even think it would go this deep because I'm talking about, planners, but I've been really introspecting very deeply to the point where I'm like, my mindful space is here recording. My mindful space to introspect truly is here recording. That's why I love recording so much. I'm appreciating my views and listens. I'm posting on more than one place now, so I do see some places that I may not be getting the views, and I'm kind of like, I haven't really posted consistently, like on YouTube, for instance. It was never something I got consistent with, but I've been consistent on the podcast and TikTok, and I'm seeing where you guys are resonating with what I'm saying. I appreciate that. So that's where it is, like, and, it's really something that, I feel like needed to be addressed. When you don't have respect for other people, you just shouldn't be in a relationship with them. And when you start to lose respect for sort of a teaching, like, I think I've lost respect for the planner teaching. I've lost respect for calendar blocking as a teaching. Because it's, you could say, well, is it because it's too rigid? Is it because you miss being carefree? Partially, but really it's because it's been exposed through our medium now to be the must, and it's become something I think that people are doing to help them just work harder. And workaholics, which I'm actually not a workaholic. I'm actually not, but I think it's really designed for people to have a guide in front of them to make sure that they're remembering to do their routines. Part of that might include fun, part of that might include get-togethers, part of that might include spending time with family. And they're remembering to do these things so that as they're being a workaholic, it's not getting away from them. That's what I possibly think that this system is for. And I've gotten pretty good at it. And it's taught me a lot about organizing and managing time. But who's to say writing down something to remember it once in a while couldn't be enough, or that I couldn't prioritize in my mind and have pattern. I work better when I'm adapting, and my team personally does not plan. It could be family, friends. It could be people in our sports and fitness community. It could be people in our library communities. We have like a lot of communities we're involved in now and all of that. So it's like, it can be any of our communities, our household, whatever. And nobody communicates well if I'm expecting everybody to plan that this weekend we're going to hang out with the dogs. And we've talked about that would be cool, but we all get very busy and we don't want to hold each other to a commitment. So we could watch the dogs later tonight and have a good time and enjoy it, and then go to the beach this weekend, for instance, right? So it's something that, like, we actually adapt better as a team instead of just planning, for instance. And when it comes to, like, work comes and goes, business comes and goes, but it's like, I'm not one to be a workaholic. I'm just not one to. That's not something I take pride in. I've had that in my family, and I actually don't think it's a bad thing, but I don't think it led them to being the most successful either, as far as, like, the people that I've had relationship with, not the people that I have relationships with now. Actually, they become quite successful by being a workaholic for years and then stepping back later on in their life and having hobbies, and now they're successful in their happiness and living and doing exactly what they want to do and living a freer life and getting out of the country and things like that without being a workaholic, right? And we've made workaholism like the most important trait in our society, whether it's business, whether it's having like a high-end job, whether it's going to college. And if you do a number of those things, oh my God, like that's amazing, right? But if you can have a life that's kind of like outside all of this, and you see society for what it, you know, what it is, and you see yourself outside of it, and you build yourself outside of that, and possibly you have a team, a family, some relationships that you build outside of society, where you're creating your own family, your own space, your own relationships. That's like really cool. So the beauty of disillusionment is just no more pressure. Like this last year, I kind of wanted to bring about the new changes in life and be intentional about like certain major life decisions about where I'd like to spend time and how I'd like to spend time. And it's taken a couple of years to get to that point. And this year I felt that it was the right time, being in a much better space to be intentional about it. Now I'm in a space of, I really want to let a lot of shit go. Because I've let people go out of my life, but the patterns I want to let go of that traced back to the way I coped with those people, the patterns of behavior on my part that made me feel like the only way to set boundaries was to calendar block. It's like I don't have to have those boundaries anymore because I'm not around those people. So there is none of that distraction. I'm not giving off a false sense of respect that I don't actually have. I'm not being fake anymore. So I don't mind just letting go of the planner, letting go of old patterns. I don't mind being a little bit loose with routines, adapting my days, changing up the morning and starting later if I can, or changing how getting ready happens in the morning, or the later part of the day is gonna continue, or any of that. Sleep, eating, whatever, because I miss that part of myself. I miss being real. I miss not feeling like I have to pretend, or not feeling like I have to create a false sense of order that doesn't need to be there in my life. But it was something for years that I really wanted to learn, and I knew that if I didn't learn it, I would regret not trying, and I did. I gave it a try. I got good at it. And I could say a part of me likes being connected to the collective sense of time, but there's so many ways you can kind of do that by posting, scrolling, being in touch with nature, being involved with community, being intentional about what you're doing, organizing and note-taking your life without the need to time block. That's definitely. So that's where I'm at. I didn't really mean for this to go long, but I do notice you guys are listening. I'm going to be taking some of this and posting it out there. And with YouTube, I am getting views on the shorts. You guys are connecting over there with what I had to say for a short minute. You drop in and check in with me, and I appreciate that there. TikTok, it's a shorter minute. It could be a 10-minute kind of like check-in or a short drop-in. Or, with the podcast being this completely coming in, maybe hydrating with me, maybe having a good hot drink, tea, coffee, maybe just getting some air, just taking a breather and listening in without anything to consume, but just being here. So, being real with ourselves, I think that's where we're at. Yeah.